Andor Season 2 is finally here with a 3 episode premiere, and very similar to Season 1, it's a slow build. I just watched 2.5 hours for this premiere, so I'm going to break down episodes 1, 2, and 3 pretty quickly for you and then give you a grade for each episode. Episode 1 is titled 1 Year Later, and we pick up 1 year after the events of Season 1. There are 4 main points to follow in this episode. Obviously, we pick up with Cassian Andor and his current mission. We have a wedding on Chandrila. We pick back up with the survivors of Ferrix. And then we also get our first interaction with the Imperials, and it is setting us up for the Gorman Massacre. So the episode actually starts off with Cassian stealing that test TIE pilot. We saw a lot of that in the trailer. So yeah, he gets it, breaks out, ends up on this forest planet, and that's really where most of his story hangs out in this episode. Stealing the TIE fighter, he ends up getting captured by this rebel cell on this forest planet. We learn its identity a little bit later in episode 2, and that's how they kind of get Cassian out of the picture for the first few episodes and build him up a little bit of tension. As far as the galactic politics go, a lot of that is in the Mon Mothma story at this wedding. It is her daughter's wedding, and a lot of senators and bigwigs from the Imperial Senate are going to be there. Luthen is also there, so there is some drama amongst the rebellion and then also the whole Imperial Senate cover that's going on. You get all of that drama that's kind of built up in Season 1. It continues over into this wedding arc in Season 2. The political tension is really going to build up in this relationship between Mon Mothma and Tay. It starts off in episode 1 but continues to build through the whole 3 episode arc. As far as the Ferrix survivors go, it's Bix and company. They are hiding out on this planet called Mina Rao. It is a harvest season. It appears to be some type of wheat or something out in the fields. They're just kind of being hidden there for the time being, trying to stay under the radar from the Imperials. And then you have the Imperials. I thought this was the most interesting aspect of the first episode. We're introduced to Krennic as far as canon goes for the first time in live action, which is pretty cool to see. And the Empire is going to need a resource for what the Emperor is saying is his energy initiative. He wants unlimited power. Yes, unlimited power. That's definitely an Easter egg to Revenge of the Sith. And so what the Empire is trying to do, Krennic has a group of people here. He's got his ISB people. We see Dedra in this episode, and he is essentially wanting to come up with this big propaganda campaign for the Gorman people to essentially make the galaxy turn against them, and they're really gonna abuse this planet and try to take all of its resources for the Emperor's energy initiative. So to me, that was the most interesting aspect of this episode because it lets us know kind of where this thing is going, probably a few more episodes down the road. The episode ends with Cassian's captor group of these rebels. They end up turning on each other, so they split up. Cassian ends up with one group away from his TIE fighter, and the other group is essentially trying to figure out what's going to go on with this TIE fighter, and that brings us on into episode 2. I personally thought episode 2 was the weakest of the 3 episodes. Not to say it wasn't a good episode or anything, just maybe the weakest out of the 3 we got. Similar 4 points to follow in this episode. We have Cassian still trying to get his way off of this planet now with more trouble because this faction is fighting amongst themselves, so he has to survive that, plus try to escape. So that's his story. We still have the Ferrix survivors on Mina Rao. There is an Imperial inspection coming up, so a little bit of tension there. They do not want to be discovered by the Empire. Back at the wedding, we see that Tay is had some bad investments, and so he's running low on money, and he essentially needs some hush money from Mon Mothma and Luthen and the rebellion to keep it under wraps. So it's a hush money situation. He's quickly turning into a character that maybe we don't like at this point, and he's probably going to find himself in some trouble over this. We'll get to that a little bit later. And then as far as the Imperial side goes, we shift to Cyril and Dedra in this episode. As far as Bix, Brasso, and B2EMO go, they're there. They know that this Imperial inspection is coming on Mina Rao, so they start prepping for their escape. Their story, not incredibly compelling in this episode, more so in episode 3. Theirs really picks up, but that's kind of what's going on for them. As far as the Imperial side of things go, Cyril and Dedra are a thing, which is kind of funny, kind of weird. I guess misery loves company. So they are together. We learn that Cyril is now a supervisor. He's kind of moved on up the chain in the Imperial Bureau of Standards, and he and Dedra, again, they are a couple at this point. So that's kind of where their story, the Imperial side of this story, goes in this episode. We do learn that Dedra doesn't really want anything to do with Krennic's plan for propaganda that we learn about in the first episode. So a little bit of internal turmoil for her, but the episode quickly shifts towards her and Cyril. The biggest, probably most interesting thing for this episode, though, is Cassian's story. So Cassian, again, he's on this forest planet, captured by this rebel cell. They don't believe he is who he says he is. They think he's an Imperial, so holding him hostage. He eventually does, though, get back to his ship. One of the most annoying things that maybe I've seen in Andor is this game of space rock, paper, scissors that this rebel cell ends up doing. Kind of frustrating, but it's quick, so you get past that. Cassian escapes, but what's most interesting is as he is flying off in his TIE fighter is we learn he is actually on one of the moons of Yavin. He's on Yavin 4. You see these temples, or at least it appears to be Yavin 4. So it kind of gives us this idea that maybe Cassian discovers Yavin 4 for the rebellion. So not really a ton here in this episode for me, but really cool tidbit at the end there that Cassian was actually on Yavin 4 the entire time. That's kind of a big deal as far as the rebellion goes. Now, for episode 3, I thought it was a pretty strong episode. Still slow build up as far as the theme of these 3 go, but we have 3 big themes for this episode. One, we have this Cyril and Dedra date where Cyril's mother is there. It appears to be a miserable date. It kind of cuts back and forth to this throughout the episode, almost as if it's like comedic relief, if you will. So you have that strange dynamic going on there. The highlight there being Dedra kind of gives it to Cyril's mom. She doesn't take anything from her, kind of sets her straight. So she stands up for Cyril and puts Cyril's mom in her place. That's what's going on there. So if you ever wanted to see an awkward date between Cyril, Dedra, and his insufferable mother being there, you got it in this episode. As far as Mon Mothma and Luthen's story goes, at this wedding arc of this story, Mon Mothma is trying to talk her daughter out of this wedding. She seems to be in a very stressful situation in this entire arc. Her daughter does not call off the wedding, so you get into all of that. You see the wedding. It's very well shot. It looks very good. But the tension here is still with Tay needing the hush money. So everything kind of builds up to a head with this part of the story, with Luthen and Mon Mothma having a discussion. Essentially, I don't think Tay's gonna make it. Luthen is gonna have to take care of him. So we see Mon Mothma leaving that conversation, and she does all the dancing that you see in the trailer. A lot of the trailer shots were in these first 3 episodes, by the way. But this story arc here at this wedding, it ends with Tay leaving the wedding, and we actually have Cinta returning here. Tay is looking for his taxi driver, his chauffeur, and it is Cinta, who he is not aware of who it is, and she leaves off with him. And I can't imagine he makes it out of this situation, given that he is going to be a liability to the rebellion. I can't imagine Luthen actually allows him to exist much longer. Now, the big payoff as far as the first 3 episodes go definitely happens here with Cassian going to Mina Rao. He goes to save the Ferric survivors. So Bix and Brasso are planning to get off-world as this Imperial inspection shows up. They're going to leave B2 there, which is kind of sad. He's really sad about it. He starts off happy in this episode because Cassian's coming back. Then he ends up sad because he's not going with them, and I just really wish he would get to hang out with Cassian at least at some point in this season, but doesn't happen in this episode. They are planning their escape. The Imperials show up for their inspection, and they actually get sold out by the guy who was hiding them this whole time. So a little bit of backstabbing. We see Bix and Brasso are split up throughout this episode. Bix is approached by the creepy Imperial guy. He actually approached her in episode 1 as well, trying to take her on a date. He's being a shady, creepy individual, and she beats him in the face with a hammer. Kind of cool to see in Star Wars. You don't see a lot of that very often. So Bix handles things for herself. Brasso, unfortunately, as he's trying to escape and Cassian returns, Brasso doesn't make it out. He gets shot on a speeder bike, so he is the first, if you want to call it, main character casualty that we have in Andor Season 2. Cassian does rescue Bix and Will. That's kind of where we're going to pick up in episodes 4, 5, and 6. We have a Ferrix crew together. We're going to assume have some more rebellion politics and drama going on. And then, of course, we're going to build up on the Imperial story with Krennic. We're going to get to the Gorman massacre and probably more awkwardness with Cyril and Dedra, if I had to guess. So if I'm grading these episodes, I'm going to give episodes 1 and 3 a 7 out of 10. They were good, not incredible or anything. Again, slow build. I have a feeling that this is going to have like plenty of 9 and 10 out of 10s as we continue this season. So I would give both of those a 7. I thought 2 was my least favorite. I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. Again, not that it's bad. I'm just looking at what this season as a whole is going to be, and I think episode 2 will probably end up being one of the weakest of the season. So again, very abbreviated discussion of 2.5 hours of Star Wars TV. I know I didn't hit all of it, but let me know what you thought about these episodes in the comments, and I'll catch you next time.